What's happening YouTube? PokePhD here. Just wanted to make a quick video talking about the new Scarlet and Violet base pull rate and generally just how that potentially could affect the price of the box going forwards, as well as some of the single cards, and do a little bit of a quick comparison to some of the latter Sword and Shield sets. Before we get into the video, make sure you do leave a like if you enjoy and subscribe if you are not already. So first things first, we can of course see the pull rates from Scarlet and Violet, at least those provided by TCG Player. So this was 8,000 booster packs, again, which is a decent, certainly a decent number of packs to get a reasonable idea of what those pull rates are. Again, the more data you have, the better, but you can guess you work with what you have. I know a few other people have opened a lot of packs as well, but I haven't made the effort to kind of collate all of that data together. But first things first, you notice the I'll just say kind of with the first row, you've got all of the different special arts, the alt arts, the Miraidon, the Coridon, the Miriam, the Gardevoir, for example, which I actually managed to pack in my own Scarlet and Violet booster box opening, so definitely check that out. And from what I saw after opening my box, it generally feels like those numbers are a little bit low. But again, it's probably just that bias that you get from looking on, Instagram and Reddit and Discord, seeing people just post all their good pulls. But it seems like they were reasonably easy to open. I was just watching Old School Pokemon's video where he opened, I can't recall exactly how many opened, but he packed 5 of the Miriam Altarts, which seemed like a lot. And it seems like generally these things are, these cards, at least in this first set, are somewhat significantly easier to pull than we've seen in Sword and Shield. Sword and Shield was a bit of a mixed bag in the sense that there were some sets where the pull rates were abysmal, such as Astral Radiance, and there were other sets where the pull rates were certainly not near as bad as that. Something like a Brilliant Stars, for example, was a set that had decent pull rates from the beginning. If you look at Evolving Skies as an example, pull rates seemed to be pretty good at the start, and then it kind of felt like the more that got printed, the worse those pull rates got. But immediately, if we just look here, I think the important ones, I try not to focus too much on the specifics of those alt arts, because as far as I'm aware, the difference in number between those two is just the variation of the kind of subset of packs that are open, that kind of limited data that you have. And the important numbers really are the any card of any of those rarities, just because that's more representative of what you can get. And as far as I'm aware, correct me if I'm mistaken, but there's equal odds of getting, or there should be equal odds of getting each of the different cards of the rarity of that specific rarity. So for example, the chance of you getting the Miraidon or the Coridon EX should be 1 in 54, then divided by the total number of hyper rares in that set, whatever it might be. I'm not too sure. I think it's probably about 4 or 5. So really, I do think those any card numbers are a little bit more reflective of what we should expect, because at the end of the day, you're going to open the box, you've no idea which secret rare you're going to get in a box. You just know you're going to get one, and you just hope you get the one that you want. And so immediately, if we compare that to the 3 sets that I have actually decided to highlight here, so we have got some Silver Tempest here, and you can see Silver Tempest immediately. The gold rare is twice as difficult to pack, regardless of what that card is exactly. I know it says Rainbow Rare then. Of course, we moved on from Rainbow Rares, thankfully, but we've still got Full Art Trainers. Again, that's about 1 in 100. Here we're talking, they've obviously changed that now to kind of special illustration rare or illustration rares. So I guess the illustration rare is probably closer to like a regular Full Art Trainer, and the special illustration rare is more, closer to the kind of Full Art alt art kind of pull. They're basically within that same realm. But immediately you can see here it is just more difficult. At least it's easy to say for the gold rares, that's almost double. The others is we obviously got to interpret it in a little bit of a different fashion. But even then, again, as I said, not always the best thing to look at the specifics for each card, but you can see the Lugia and the Regidrago, for example. The same with the Unknown as well. Seem to be about maybe not twice, a little less than twice as easy to or difficult to pull relative to Scarlet and Violet. Again, this is another 8,000 pack booster, so that the data set's the same size. The Serena trainer is actually twice as difficult to pull as the Miriam trainer, which is at 1 in 320. And it's interesting to see that is very similar to the value for the actual Alt Art Miriam, which again kind of gets to my point where if it's a special illustration rare, regardless of what it is, it should be reasonably similar in terms of the opportunity and chance of packing them. Silver Tempest from Sword and Shield wasn't actually too difficult and didn't have the worst pull rates. A lot of people seem to get their hands on like a Lugia or a Regidrago. As I mentioned before, it was Astral Radiance that seemed to be probably one of the worst, if not the worst and most difficult set to actually pull good cards from. You can see here the numbers for the Palkia and the Dialga are not too far off what we saw for Silver Tempest, and obviously like over double, particularly that Dialga for compared to Scarlet and Violet. The gold cards even worse, 4 to 5 times more difficult to pull, and the Machamp as well. You're looking at ridiculously low opportunity there. Again, it's probably just from this subset of packs that were opened, and because there's no way a Hisuian Sneasler is going to be more difficult, and there's going to be fewer of those than a Machamp or a Palkia or a Dialga. But again, looking at the numbers, the any card numbers is probably what you would prefer to do. So you can see there, gold 1 in 130, and Full Art Trainers around about 1 in 100. So you can see even between Astral Radiance and Silver Tempest, Astral Radiance is a tad more difficult with the secret rare. The Full Art Trainer is pretty much the same, if not a little bit lower. But again, you've got to look at the number of Full Art Trainers in the set as well, but I don't think they're going to be too dissimilar. The third and final Sword and Shield set I wanted to look at was Brilliant Stars, and the reason why I included this was, again, as I mentioned before, it seemed to be a set where it was, the pull rates were reasonably good. I actually packed that Arceus alt art in another video, and one of the random collection box openings that I did. You can see immediately gold rares again, around about 1 in 100. Full Art Trainers halved relative to the other two actually, and you're getting towards that kind of special illustration rare rate that you see there. But again, 1 in 50 is still lower, still a lower chance than what we see with Scarlet and Violet. Just to highlight again, you've got this Charizard V, for example, the alt art at least, which is around about 1 in 500. The Arceus again about 1 in 500 too. So somewhat lower than the the desired or the chase alt art cards that we see in Scarlet and Violet. There's a reason why I picked these 3 sets alongside obviously the points that I mentioned as well before. It's interesting that Astral Radiance is probably one of the worst performing sets of the latter half of Sword and Shield. Like, it was not fun to open. I opened up a little bit on my channel, and yeah, it wasn't too great. Don't think I got anything special, even though of course it does include a subset of training gallery cards. Again, it's just not fun opening a box, opening a set where it's just really tough to get the cards that you want, or at least something decent and rewarding out of it. And it's one of those things where you open a little bit and you're probably moving on to the next set just because you're not getting anything out of it. Whereas with it seems like with Scarlet and Violet, at least, you open a booster box and you're getting something pretty good. And I mean, for me at least, that's just going to probably make me want to open more of the set, just to kind of take a little bit of a chance relative to just buying the singles. Of course, buying the singles is always the best thing to do, but everyone knows that. But we don't do it because we want the opportunity to pack things ourselves, because it's people ask the question all the time, why not just buy the singles? Because I want to bloody open it myself, because if I pack it myself, it just means way more than just buying it off buying it off the or buying it as a single. It's the reason why no one just buys full sets, because if you're trying to collect a set, why don't you just buy the bloody set itself, right? You want to build out that set yourself, just kind of be more nostalgic and kind of build more memories that way. But yeah, besides the point, didn't mean to go off on a little bit of a rant, but my point really is that this is probably going to want to make me open up more product, right? And I think generally that's going to be the case for most people, just because, again, it is more rewarding. But then you've got to balance it with the fact that, okay, you're going to open more products, but generally is more product going to be opened because there's enough there? You're just getting more pulls. Those singles prices are going to be lower, which means maybe people are more tempted to open those singles. So there's a balance between, I guess, the single prices and the box itself. Single prices, there's certainly like a positive correlation between the two. If the single prices go up, the box price and the price of the box, you'd expect to kind of follow that. Sometimes it's not it's not exact. It's not an exact science where one day the price of the single ticks up and then the box goes up the same day. In fact, what I've often observed is there's a significant lag between that. For example, you look at Evolving Skies with the Umbreon. The Umbreon was reaching crazy numbers, and the box seemed to kind of lag a little bit behind it. Although again, it's not stopped, has it? And now the Umbreon VMAX price has been stagnant for a little while, and even still the booster box price has been rising, and maybe potentially that's just it kind of catching up to that value. But the main points really are that if they're going to be easier to pull, singles are going to be cheaper, and you're more likely to buy the singles if that's the case. But as I said, I think there's a lot of people out there, myself included, who are just going to say, well, I'm just going to probably open more products because it's more fun, and if I'm interested in collecting the set, then I will do so. And what's that likely to do? Mean that there's less sealed product, but we are so still at the beginning of Scarlet and Violet's release. There's a lot of time for things to change. And what does that mean for the price of the booster box? I mean, it's obviously all conjecture as it is usual. And at this point in time, the price is pretty low given the price increase, MSRP increase, and the increase in price for distribution. The margins right now aren't looking fantastic on the box itself, and I imagine that's going to continue probably well until we get into the next set or two. And I think at this point we're just going to see those single card prices continue to go down as more product is open, but I don't think the demand is going to be such to open the product, even though it seems to be like a good product to open, that it's going to overshadow the fact that the singles are going to be cheaper and fewer people are probably going to want to or will be happy to go out and buy those singles to complete the set. The issue is that, yeah, it's nice to open the product and get what you want and get some cool cards, but you often just don't get what you need to complete a set, which means you're always at the end going to have to go out and spend that money to get those last few cards. And if there's a way to kind of guarantee you don't get duplicates, then that would obviously be insane and change things massively, but it's not an online game, right? It's certainly not something that's possible. So a lot of kind of conflicting ideas, I guess, here and things at play, certainly. But generally, I don't see the box kind of spiking up too much in price, given what's going on. There seems to be a healthy amount of product available too, I mean, at this point in time, I can't see it getting too much lower, but I also don't see any kind of spike or any increase in that price between now and, as I said, the next few Scarlet and Violet sets. So again, we'll just have to wait and see. I could be completely wrong, but generally that seems to be the impression given what we've seen with the last few sets. Again, it'd be also interesting to see how the pull rates change going through the remainder of Scarlet and Violet, and obviously first of all going through Paldea Evolved and anything to come, just to see if Pokemon are happy with the number of boxes that they're able to kind of get rid of, or at least distribution are able to to sell. And you know, if they get a lot of good feedback to say that, you know, it's good that these pull rates are a lot easier than they were in a lot of Sword and Shield sets, maybe they'll stick with that. But again, at the same time, if they're able to kind of raise some desire by like artificially inflating um, the um, the pull rates of a lot of these cards, raise the price of singles, for example, because of that, maybe that would suit them. But again, should they care that single prices are high? Probably not. As far as Pokemon are concerned, they just want to print boxes and seal product and sell that to consumers, and then not really so much have to worry about the price of the cards after that. But those are just a few points I wanted to share. I know it wasn't probably the most coherent and clear answer, but things are still obviously still quite new. But it's nice that, of course, the pull rates are a little bit nicer for Scarlet and Violet, and as I said, certainly more fun to open than what we've seen with product before. And to be honest, I hope it kind of continues. It is certainly nice that being the case. Maybe there's a few, you know, maybe if they do make the chase cards a little bit more difficult, it would mean they're a little bit more expensive. But most people, I think most people are happy with that not being the case. So we'll obviously just have to wait and see what happens with the remainder of Scarlet and Violet, or just the latest sets as we move through the era. But as I said, thank you for tuning in. Those were some of the points I wanted to kind of share. Hopefully, I'll see you on the next one.